A close friend of mine has been missing for nearly a month now. He was still living with his parents, feeling stuck and frustrated ever since his grandfather passed away. When he inherited an old film projector, he thought it might somehow help him push through his writer's block. The last time we spoke, he mentioned finally trying out the projector and watching whatever was on those ancient film reels. From what I've pieced together, he ended up falling asleep during one of the movies. But when he woke up, well, at least according to the notes he left behind, he wasn't in his room. He woke up in what he described as some kind of labyrinth. After he disappeared, his parents found his notebook tucked away under his bed. I've been working on typing it out, but it's long, and I'm still combing through everything. For now, I'll share the first part in case someone out there has any clue about what might have happened, or where he might have gone. I'll post more as I work through the rest of it. If anyone has seen or heard about something like this before, please let me know. Underscore 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 from his journal. It's been over a year since I last wrote a short story. I just haven't been able to put my heart into it. Honestly, I don't even know what to write. I guess I'll start by explaining what I'm doing and why. I've always wanted to be a fiction writer, but it's been an uphill battle for a while. The truth is, I've been dealing with depression for years. It's like my head is full of ideas, but just thinking about them hurts. I've always loved my imagination, but lately, it feels like a painful, haunted place. It's gotten so bad that I've been too scared to even try creating anything. Instead, I've been stuck avoiding my thoughts altogether, because I don't want to dwell on how things got to this point. But sitting around, sinking deeper into this pit, isn't working either. I need to do something, anything, that might help me turn things around. So, I decided to start this diary. Maybe if I just start writing whatever comes to mind, I can shake off the rust and let it turn into something. My thoughts have been dark and scary lately, but horror has always been one of my favorite genres. Maybe that's where I can find inspiration. Even writing this much has been a struggle, though. Every single word feels like a battle, and I hate how long it takes me to get anything down. Over the past 2 days, I've barely managed to get through a paragraph. But I have to keep trying. Even if it's slow, I'll get back to it eventually. Sometimes, I feel so groggy and sluggish that it's hard to think straight. Maybe if I try writing while watching something, it'll help, though music has been hit or miss for me lately. Sometimes it's nice, but other times it just feels like noise. I tried watching a movie while writing, but that was too distracting. Guess I'll stick to fantasy instrumentals for now. It's been ages since I wrote anything at all, mostly because I spiraled after getting kicked out of a friend group I'd been part of for over 2 years. I don't want to overthink it right now, it's a long story, but it really wrecked me. I fell back into my old habits of being a depressed recluse who barely gets any sunlight or exercise. I gave therapy a shot, but I couldn't stick with it. Another long story I'll save for later. It's after midnight now, and I'm exhausted, so I'll stop here. I know I haven't written much yet, but I didn't start until pretty late. Plus, I want to work on fixing my sleep schedule. Waking up before noon for once would be nice. Depression makes good sleep feel impossible sometimes. Recently, my family finally stopped fighting over my grandparents' estate. It dragged on for years in court, mostly because my aunt did some shady stuff to get control of their finances right before they passed. I don't know all the details, and I don't really care to. I love my grandparents, but I try to steer clear of family drama when I can. Now that it's all settled, my parents told me my grandfather left me a few things. They came in the mail today. Most of it's computer-related, no surprise there. My grandpa's the reason I love tech in the first place. When I was little, he taught me how to use computers, and whenever I visited, we'd play Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network games on his old machine. It was a long time before I got my own computer at home, and even longer before we upgraded from dial-up internet. As cool as the computer gear is, it's not the most intriguing thing my grandfather left me. Along with it, I inherited this antique projector. There aren't any logos or labels on it, but it's beautifully crafted and in surprisingly good shape. For all I know, my grandpa might have built it himself. He always had a knack for tinkering with gadgets, way beyond anything I could do. While I've always been drawn to PCs and programming, he was more of a jack of all trades, fixing everything from toasters to televisions. Still, it's odd that he'd choose to leave me a projector. I was never particularly into film or anything like that. Well, maybe he remembered that one summer when my friends and I talked about making a movie. But even then, I was way more into storytelling and designing video games. My love for tech has always been more about software than hardware. This projector, though, feels like it's from another world. The design is sleek yet haunting, with intricate patterns etched into the metal casing that almost seem to whisper their own tale. There's something uncanny about it, something I can't quite put my finger on. Maybe there's a deeper reason why my grandfather thought I should have it, something more than just nostalgia or a passing memory. One thing I didn't notice at first is how unnaturally cold it feels, almost like touching dry ice. It's strange but not enough to stop me from wanting to try it out. I decided to set it up in my walk-in closet. The walls in there are stark white and spacious, perfect for a clear projection. Plus, it's dark enough, and there's even a power outlet nearby for the plug. I locked my bedroom door so my parents wouldn't interrupt me. Honestly, I wasn't expecting the projector to work, but to my surprise, it fired up perfectly. The hum it makes is unsettling, low and rhythmic, almost alive. The reel it came with was already loaded, a large film reel that looked just as old as the machine itself. The moment it started running, the whirring noise grew louder, and a fine cloud of dust rose around me. The light flickered on, and a blurry black and white image appeared on the wall. It reminded me of those old silent films, but there was something off about it. The picture was grainy, warped, like time itself had twisted it out of shape. Shadows and vague shapes danced across the screen, forming patterns that shifted before I could make sense of them. It was abstract, disjointed, as if I was trying to remember something half-forgotten. As the image gradually became clearer, it revealed a barren desert. There were no buildings, no trees, not even a hint of life, just an endless, desolate expanse stretching under a pale, featureless gray sky. Yet, despite the stillness, an overwhelming sense of unease crept over me. It felt like there were unseen eyes in the darkness, watching me intently with malicious curiosity. The picture began to ripple slightly, like the surface of a pond disturbed by a sudden drop of water. The desert scene on the wall grew darker at the edges, shadows stretching unnaturally fast. The horizon became jagged and fragmented, dividing the cracked earth from a swirling, chaotic sky above. Thick, black fog churned in the clouds, and inky darkness began spilling downward, spreading like a flood across the barren landscape. The blackness didn't just cover the ground, it seemed to invade the very essence of the film itself. It wasn't just an image anymore, it felt tangible, like something alive and aware. This viscous, unnatural substance seeped across the screen, moving deliberately, creeping into every corner. It devoured everything in its path, leaving nothing but a void behind. I couldn't look away. It was mesmerizing, terrifying. It felt as though the film wasn't just projecting a scene, it was pulling something into existence right there in the room with me. The inky darkness on the screen begins to pool at the heart of the desolate landscape, churning and swirling as though it has a life of its own. From this black abyss, something starts to rise, a grotesque, misshapen head emerging from the void. Its form is blurred, as if conjured from a half-formed nightmare, but its sheer size is undeniable. The distorted silhouette looms over the barren horizon, its hollow, lifeless eyes staring into the abyss. One elongated, limp nostril hangs grotesquely from its face, adding to the unease. Without making a sound, its cavernous mouth stretches open, revealing rows upon rows of jagged, uneven teeth. Somehow, the dark liquid is being drawn into its gaping maw, draining the landscape and leaving dry, cracked ground in its wake. From the depths of this surreal, shadowy ocean, another figure starts to take shape, or perhaps it's an object. It's hard to tell. A silhouette begins to emerge, indistinct at first, as though hidden by the murky film grain. Slowly, it takes on the form of a small, skeletal rowboat, drifting precariously in the churning waters. Then, something shifts, a spindly, impossibly long arm rises from the water, clawing at the boat's edge. With deliberate, unsettling movements, a figure hauls itself onto the rocking boat. It's impossibly tall and unnaturally thin, its limbs twisted and gnarled like the branches of an ancient, haunted tree. Its head tilts at an unnerving angle, as if its neck were broken, and its eyes, if they can be called that, emit an eerie, otherworldly glow that pierces through the gloom. The dark water around the boat begins to bubble and froth as the creature lets out a mournful, bone-chilling wail. The sound cuts through the steady hum of the projector, both human and inhuman in its haunting resonance. Despite my growing dread, I can't look away. The figure stands on the boat now, scanning the desolate horizon with its pale, empty orbs, as though searching for something lost. Another cry escapes its twisted form, this one layered with a deep, aching desperation. Suddenly, the camera shifts, panning to the edge of a forest. Emerging from the shadows is a massive, monstrous being, its form barely captured by the grainy film. Its limbs are encrusted with barnacles, and its body ripples and undulates like the surface of a restless ocean. It towers over the landscape, dwarfing even the distant mountains, and moves with an unsettling, unnatural grace. The creature is a patchwork of mismatched parts, limbs that shouldn't belong together, grotesque appendages that move in eerie synchrony. As it draws closer, more details become clear. Its face, or what I think is its face, is a void, a blackness so deep it seems to absorb the dim light of the scene. Its mouth stretches impossibly wide, revealing endless rows of jagged teeth that glint like shards of glass. The sheer size of the creature is overwhelming, and the air around it seems to pulse with its oppressive presence. Then, the focus changes again. This time, the screen centers on something even more unsettling, an enormous tree standing alone in the desolate expanse. It reaches up endlessly, disappearing into the swirling gray void above. Its roots spread out like the tentacles of some ancient sea monster, clawing through the cracked ground. The trunk is grotesquely bulbous, its surface riddled with deep wrinkles and weeping a thick, glowing sap that pulsates like a living heartbeat. The branches twist and writhe like petrified serpents, their bark glistening with an unnatural luminescence that seems to pulse in sync with the glowing sap. Hanging from the branches are massive, fleshy fruits that sway slightly, their surfaces quivering as though alive. They resemble grotesque, oversized eyes, unblinking and cold as they gaze down at the empty plains below. But the most horrifying detail lies within the tree's trunk. Embedded deep in its center is a colossal, pulsating eye. Its iris shifts through a kaleidoscope of chaotic colors, swirling endlessly. It feels alive, intelligent, and malevolent. The eye seems to look straight through the screen, piercing into me, examining me, as though it knows I'm watching. This tree isn't just massive, it's otherworldly, ancient, and alive in ways I can't fully comprehend. It feels like a god, or something even older, an entity that has existed long before humanity, observing silently as eons passed by. On the screen, the figure from the boat steps onto the barren land, moving with a slow, deliberate reverence. Despite its twisted, fragile form, it appears connected to the tree, as though bound to it by some unspoken understanding. As the figure raises a skeletal hand, the tree responds, lowering a massive, sinuous limb to meet it. Their connection feels profound, sacred, and deeply unsettling, as though I'm witnessing something no human was ever meant to see. The landscape on the wall begins to distort, twisting and contorting in ways that defy natural laws. What was once a desolate, barren plain is now teeming with strange, otherworldly structures that rise and fall like shifting shadows. I can make out the image of an overgrown garden, its gnarled trees reaching skyward like skeletal hands clawing at the heavens. Their twisted branches cast jagged, unnatural shadows across the ground, and the air seems heavy with an oppressive silence. Shapes begin to flicker in and out of view, grotesque humanoid forms, their proportions unsettling and wrong. They writhe and shudder across the screen, their movements jerky and erratic as though they're not entirely bound by the laws of physics. Their faces are obscured by dark, featureless masks, their blank expressions somehow more unnerving than any overt menace. In the background, a colossal structure looms, its jagged spires piercing the gray sky above. The silhouette is stark and foreboding, an ominous monument to something unknowable. As the minutes tick by, the scene becomes increasingly surreal. Shapes morph and twist, bending logic and reason, as if the film itself is unraveling. Despite the unease clawing at my gut, there's a strange monotony to it all. The abstract patterns, combined with the rhythmic hum of the projector, are lulling me into a stupor. My eyelids grow heavier with each passing moment. The tension in the air is thick, but exhaustion is thicker. I feel myself slipping away, right here in my chair. When I open my eyes, everything is different. I'm no longer in my closet. This place, this small, sterile white room, is alien to me. The walls are smooth and devoid of features, a blank void of color. There's no door, no window, just a desk, a chair, a notebook, and a pen. That's it. The scariest part is that I don't know how I got here or why I'm here. Whoever put me in this place must want me to write something in this notebook. At least, that's the only explanation I can think of. I'm hoping, praying, that writing will please whoever is behind this and they'll let me out. But my mind is blank. The oppressive whiteness of the room makes it impossible to focus. Even the light here feels wrong, an overbearing, harsh fluorescent glow that washes out any shadows. I try to convince myself it's just a nightmare. If I take a nap, maybe I'll wake up in my room, and this will all just disappear. But no. When I wake again, I'm still here, and things are worse. The light has intensified. It's so bright that it's obliterating all sense of depth and contrast. Everything is blending into a featureless, blinding void. I can't even tell where the walls end and the floor begins. Desperation sets in. I try everything I can think of, banging on the walls, slamming the chair against them, but nothing works. The walls won't budge. I'm exhausted, and my frustration is boiling over. I wrote something down in the notebook, or at least I thought I did, but when I look down, the desk is gone. I reach out, trying to feel my way around, but the desk seems to shift whenever I get close, like it's not really solid. The sensation is maddening, like trying to hold on to water that refuses to be contained. It's there one moment and gone the next, as if it's playing some kind of cruel game with me. Then, something changes. I slam my fists down on where I think the desk should be, and for a split second, I feel it under my hands. But the moment I lift them, it shifts again. That's when it hits me, concentration. If I focus hard enough, I can make it stay still. It's absurd, but it works. I focus all my energy, and the desk becomes real, solid, anchored. If this is a dream, then I'm going to bend it to my will. I grab the pen and draw a circle on the wall, pressing my hand against it with all the focus I can muster. To my shock, my hand pushes through the wall. My heart pounds. If a circle works, then maybe, just maybe, a door will too. I draw the shape of a door on the wall, gripping the pen tightly as I trace each line with determination. This is my way out. It has to be. I manage to scratch a crude rectangle onto the wall, forcing my way through the impossible surface. Relief washed over me for a brief moment, until I realized I had no idea where I'd ended up. Everything was blindingly bright, pure white in every direction. I couldn't see anything at all, no walls, no ground, just endless light. Why couldn't I stand? My body felt limp, and then it hit me, I was falling. At least, I thought I was. The realization crept in slowly, like a shadow in the corner of my mind. Was I actually falling, or had I convinced myself that I was? The sensation wasn't there at first, it was like I wasn't even floating, more like I wasn't existing at all. Now, though, I know I'm falling. I've been falling for what feels like an eternity, with no end in sight. The uncertainty is unbearable. Am I going to fall forever, or will I hit the ground eventually? I can't decide which fate terrifies me more. I've battled these thoughts before, dark ones, the kind that make you question if life is worth it. I've even tried to end it once or twice, but I've always been too scared to follow through. Now, more than ever, I don't want to die. Not like this. Not here. Not alone. I'm so sorry. Wait. What just happened? Am I alive? I can feel something beneath me. It's soft, cold, and strange, almost like it isn't even there, but it's solid enough. I'm on the ground, somehow. My hands press against it as I steady myself. Everything around me is still blindingly white, but this space is much larger than the room I left behind. Doors. There are several doors scattered around this space. Maybe one of them will lead me out of here. This place is sterile, unnervingly so. It reminds me of an office building stripped of life and color, as though someone tried to recreate one from a vague memory and got every detail wrong. I walk slowly, each step making me feel more disoriented. How long have I been wandering through these empty halls? Minutes? Hours? Days? It's all starting to feel like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. I've tried calling for help, but nothing comes out. My voice doesn't echo, it doesn't even exist. Panic sets in, and I stomp the ground, clap my hands, kick the walls. Nothing. Not a single sound. This place is like a vacuum, hostile to life itself. It's oppressively sterile, silent, and endless. There's no air, no warmth, no hint of anything human. Even my breath is gone. I keep walking, but it feels futile. Every corridor looks the same, every door leads nowhere. Have I searched hundreds of rooms, or just a handful? I can't tell anymore. My thoughts are slipping through my fingers like sand. The harder I try to concentrate, the more my mind blanks out. Where am I? What was I just thinking? I can't hold on to any train of thought. It's like this place is draining me, my mind, my senses, my very existence. I don't know how much longer I can do this. My thoughts are dissolving, fading into the endless white. I need to stay focused. I just need to find the exit. There has to be an exit.